Let's talk about self-care. Now, there are a lot of misconceptions about what that word means and what that looks like, as well as a variety of ways that people can go about caring for themselves. And in this episode, I'm going to share that definition and then also share some misconceptions, some other ways to look at self-care, and share my personal ways that I like to care for myself. What is up, people? Jean Carlos here with the Total Body Training Podcast, where I help people get lean, gain muscle, and build some damn confidence. And today I'm going to jump into a definition that I read over at Elite Daily website, and they define self-care as critical acts that set you up for balance and success in your personal and professional life. So these are literally things, when you're taking care of yourself, that help you perform and be better at your daily living, whether that's being a person who has, having kids, or a person who has kids, being a parent, or being a business owner, or being a student, or being a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever the case might be, being you, whatever it is that helps you in your own personal life, you taking care of yourself, you being sharper, all those things that go into your personal life, right? That's a part of self-care, is making sure that you're balanced in that area and doing things that help you balance out your personal life and also your professional life. So if you are a business owner, I said business owner earlier, but we'll throw that one in professional life, or if you work for someone, making sure that you feel good and at your best so that you can perform best at the job that you have or the job that you've chosen for yourself. And there are a lot of ways that we can do this, but before I go into my suggestions for self-care, I kind of want to talk a little bit about misconceptions, about self-care. Now, a lot of times when people think of self-care, they think of and these things can be used for self-care, but they're not necessarily or should not be linked directly to self-care. So let me give you an example. Getting a massage. Getting a steak at a fine dining restaurant, drinking, distracting yourself with, mindless things, partying. Those things sometimes are associated with self-care. And that comes from people feeling like they're stressed out from their jobs and their work, so I'm going to party so that I can feel better. But the problem is that if you stay up and you just get wrecked all the time, your balance in your personal life and your professional life are not going to do better. You might have had fun on that occasion, and you might like that you had gone out, and there's definitely a time and a place for that, where I'm not a Puritan here. I've done my share of things, a lot of them, too many of them, and those things are not going to help the problem. Those aren't forms of self-care. Oftentimes, partying, overindulging in food, drugs, alcohol, whatever, are self-sabotaging? Yeah, self-sabotaging. And, it's not that they can't be a break from the norm or help give you a refresher, but it's definitely not what I would consider to be self-care. Same thing with having a steak or having a massage. People sometimes go a little bit too fancy with the self-care, so they think it has to be this really grand thing. It's like, I'm going to spend $100 on a massage, which is a reasonable price, but maybe you don't always have the funds to do that, or maybe that's not really what we're talking about specifically here in self-care. So I'm going to jump into things that help me out, because really what we're talking about is making sure that we have that balance in our personal life and our business life. And there are a few things that I do personally that help me be balanced in my personal and business life. Here they are. So I just wrote them down bullet point style in my notes here, and I'm just going to read them to you and talk to you. I find that I have to have a really solid thing that I do in the morning and, that gets me going. Now, I'm not a big fan of working out intensely first thing in the morning. So what I do but I do need a physical practice. So for me, that could be stretching, that could be, doing something like going for a walk. And actually, that's what I do. Pretty much every morning that I can, I get up and I go for either a walk, a jog, or a run. And the purpose of this, is maybe to burn a few extra calories, but really it's to get my body going and get my body moving. I'm a person who needs a lot of movement and needs that, push in the morning or the movement from walking and stuff to get my mind sharp and going. Otherwise, I feel like a dredge through my morning classes and through my morning routines if I don't. So I always get up, and this is something that helps balance me out. I get to walk and think the thoughts, organize the things that I'm going to do for that day. Usually in the morning, if I'm up early enough, I don't get calls from clients. I don't get calls from my coworkers or anything like that if I'm up at the right time. Or if I do, I can kind of just ignore it because I don't have to take care of it right then and there. And my morning walks sometimes will be outdoors, but honestly, a lot of times I just walk on a treadmill. We don't have treadmills here. I go to a local gym and I hop on a treadmill and oh yeah, boring treadmill. But the pros of doing that treadmill is that I can be very passive with it and I can answer messages, I can send out emails, and I can review what I need to do for that day. Now, does that sound a little bit like I'm working while I'm walking? Yeah, sure. But at the same time, I see this as a form of self-care because I'm taking care of myself. I am relaxing. I'm walking. I'm just kind of tasking. I actually enjoy tasking and doing mundane things. And those few minutes when I'm on the treadmill in the morning usually consist of me listening to an audiobook while reviewing some messages and, considering what I'm going to do for the day. So usually my walk is about 30 to 35 minutes. A minimum 20 to 25 is what I do. It's just a great time for me. Now, the next thing that you can do is, and you don't have to do that. So you don't have to answer your messages. Maybe you do just need to hop on the treadmill and walk and just really literally just disconnect. Just disconnect from everything. And if that works for you, which I oftentimes do, you can do that. And I'll do that by listening to a book or a podcast that helps get me primed and motivated. So here's another one. This is another one that I'd throw in there. It's quality time with a significant other. Now, for me, this is a form of personal balance. I get recharged when I spend time with my girlfriend and I set the phone aside and I set work aside and it's just us, going out to the movies or going to, and talking with her, conversing about my week, sharing experiences with that person that I care about, my girlfriend, helps give me a sense of personal balance in my life because our goals are very similar and we're both pushing and helping each other along the way. So for me, that's a form of self-care. Now, it might not be for you, but it is for me. Another one is yoga. Since I am a person who likes a lot of movement, I like to dance, I like to work out, I like to lift, I like to do yoga, I like to do all sorts of stuff. Yoga is just excellent because it's a way for me to express my body in a way that I don't do on the regular. So because I'm lifting so often and I'm teaching people how to lift, I don't exactly take all this time to stretch and do these really graceful kinds of movements with my body. So I love training in the yoga modality. One of my added benefits of that is that with yoga, you also are taught, if you're in a certain kind of yoga class, the meditative side of things. So the side where you're stopping, you're relaxing, you're really focusing your mind, you're being very present, and you're being very in the moment. You're being in the here and the now. And that's why I like to do yoga. And, the other one is, and this is a form of self-care for myself, is let's say that I'm feeling tired and I want to do something, but I don't really feel like working, but I'm physically tired. Maybe I am in a peak week here at Total Body Training, or I'm getting a little bit sick, or I just feel like I feel like restless, like I need to work on something, but I can't, sit at a desk or go to another Starbucks to work. What I do is I sit in bed and I zone out. Maybe I watch a show for a few minutes, and then while I'm in bed, I work. I know it sounds kind of weird, but for me, it helps give me two things. It helps relax my body because I'm sitting there, I'm upright, right, sitting on my bed. I'm relaxing myself. I'm in a relaxing environment. Maybe I light some candles, set the mood, dim the lights a little bit, and I play some music. Usually I play some chill hop or some jazz, and I work on something really for work. So maybe some creative task, whether it's editing videos or editing picture. Now, Jean, you're working. Are you doing work-related things? Sure, but at the same time, my work and the work that I create oftentimes is something that I legitimately enjoy. I legitimately enjoy creative work. There's something really cathartic about it, and I specifically like doing my creative work when I am uninterrupted. So I try my best to set the phone to the side and just really zone in and focus on being one with the stuff that I'm doing. And so, I find this to be a form of self-care. Giving myself one thing to work on and relaxing through the process makes it feel great. Now, here's another one that I really like, and that is reading books, and I specifically like to read graphic novels. Right now, I I just finished reading Infinity Gauntlet, I believe. That's the last thing I read, and I read some of the Punisher series. I like graphic novels. I like Marvel stuff. I also like a lot of adult-related graphic novels, so things like Preacher, very dark books that really are kind of gross and crazy. I just enjoy reading. It's a spectacular. They make a show about Preacher, but that's what I do. Before I go to bed, oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes if I'm stressed, I'll sit down and I'll read something and get caught up in a fictionalized world or a fictionalized story to take me out of my moment, and that's a form of giving me self-care. I find that if I can get away from always doing work and put myself in a situation where I'm having fun and I'm entertaining a fictional story, that I can feel better and I can go on the next day. It's like I'm recharged if I'm doing that. Sitting still. This one is one that is sometimes hard for me. I am constantly moving, constantly teaching people, constantly editing, constantly doing stuff, and I love what I do. But because of that, sometimes the stillness is the move. That's a song. The Stillness is the Move is a song by the Dirty Projectors. You should go look them up. They're crazy. But sometimes I need to sit completely still. It's not even really meditating. Just sit still and just stare out at the sky or something on my porch and try to just let the day be what it is. And it's not like I'm doing this for an hour or something. Maybe I do it for 10 minutes, almost like a meditative practice. Let my mind go wherever I want. Just think and relax and sit still. Sometimes I just lay on the floor. I do a lot of legs up a wall, so that's a yoga thing. I just bring my legs directly against a wall and I let the blood flow from my feet, drag down my legs down to my quads, things like that. There are apparently some health benefits to that, and I won't go over those there, but it helps calm me down when I'm feeling a little bit stressed. This is a form of self-care. Listening to self-growth literature is another form of self-care. I am a strong believer in being self-taught and teaching yourself and growing and developing as a person. Until the day I die, my goal is to always be learning something new and improving and refining my mind and becoming a broader and more effective learner and human being. It's just what I love doing each and every day. And one of the things that has really greatly benefited me is reading self-growth literature. So things like books like The Obstacle is the Way, or How to Win Friends and Influence People, or Bird by Bird. All these books help me become more effective as a person in my personal life, more empathetic, but also help me realize that my situation and the struggles that I go through are nothing in comparison to a lot of other people's. And that gives me a sense of humility and strength in that humility that helps me continue to push it. So I, look at self-growth literature as this well of water or nourishment that's helping me become a better person. When I'm feeling particularly stressed, a form of self-care for me is removing that stress by focusing on someone else. So if there's something that I can't control but I feel about it, right? If something happens to me and I just can't really control it, what I do is I try to put some kind of good out into the world, and in the process I feel a little bit better because I focus less on myself. So I do random acts of kindness. I will buy a person a gift. I will write them a letter. Those things make me feel better. Does that make me sound selfish? Maybe it does. I don't care. Either way, I'm showing people that I care, and in the process of taking myself out of the equation and focusing on them, I feel better. It's a win-win situation. I improve a relationship and I improve my current status, the way that I feel. So those are just a few things that I do for self-care. I know some of them are a bit odd. What are things that you do for self-care? If you have anything you do to take care of yourself and better yourself, please leave those down in the comments section below. If you don't agree with something that I do, or you think like, why would you do that? That doesn't sound like self-care, Please leave them down there. Tell me why in the comments section below. All right, people, thank you so much for tuning in to the podcast. Until next time, peace.